Fluent English with daily routines. Fluency doesn't happen only in classrooms, it's built in the small moments of your everyday life. In this lesson, you'll discover how to speak English naturally and confidently by turning your daily routines into the ultimate practice ground. From waking up in the morning, rushing to school or work, chatting with friends, grabbing lunch, studying late, and winding down at night, every step of your day is an opportunity to improve your English effortlessly. You'll learn the real phrases, idioms, and expressions that native speakers use every single day and how to apply them in your own life to finally sound fluent. In this video, you'll learn how to describe your morning, school, and night routines in English, everyday expressions for food, study, and social life, how to transform simple habits into powerful fluency practice, ways to build confidence and speak English like a native. Your daily life already has the lessons you need. Now it's time to unlock them and turn repetition into transformation. Watch until the end and start living your routines in English. Fluency is already part of your day. Fluency is not something that arrives in a sudden moment of revelation. It does not come from one textbook, one course, or even one trip abroad. Fluency is shaped in the repetition of what seems ordinary, in the unnoticed rhythm of your daily life. The mistake so many students make is believing that English is only learned when they sit down with a book or press play on a lesson. But in truth, the path to fluency begins the moment you open your eyes in the morning and only ends when you close them at night. Your routine is not separate from English. It is the secret key that makes fluency possible. Think of how your day begins. You hear the alarm, you stretch. You look at the clock and realize you're running late, or maybe that you have just enough time. Already there are words. I overslept. I'm running late. I've got time. They are not fancy. They are not complex. But they are the foundation of fluency because they connect thought to language, feeling to expression. If you choose to say them in English, you have already started your day practicing fluency without opening a book. Now imagine carrying that perspective through the entire day. Every action, no matter how small, is a doorway. Brushing your teeth is not only hygiene, it is a chance to whisper, I need to get ready. Preparing breakfast is not only food, it is the moment to say, I'll grab some toast. Walking to the bus stop is not only movement, it is a chance to think, I hope I don't miss it. What looks repetitive and dull suddenly transforms into an endless language laboratory. Your routine stops being invisible, it becomes alive with words. This is the secret most learners overlook. They chase after complicated lessons, believing fluency lives in the extraordinary, in rare experiences or special study plans. But fluency hides in the ordinary. In the cup of coffee, in the conversations in the hallway, in the sigh of frustration during homework, in the laughter with friends. The more you bring English into these moments, the faster it stops being a foreign language and becomes the language of your life. Ask yourself, how much of your day passes in silence or only in your native language, when it could have been lived in English? How many opportunities have you missed because you thought practice was something to schedule, instead of something already present in every gesture? The truth is, every day gives you the gift of routine. And routine, if you claim it, is the engine of transformation. By the end of this journey, you will see your daily routine not as a chain of boring repetitions, but as a map, a design for fluency. Each step, from the moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep, holds lessons. Each moment is already training your voice, if only you choose to name it in English. Your routine is not holding you back, it is pushing you forward. And once you see that, fluency stops being a distant dream. It becomes the natural outcome of the life you already live. The way you start your morning sets the rhythm for the rest of the day. And in language, the same principle applies. The words you choose early on determine how your fluency will unfold. Morning rituals are not just about preparing your body. They are about awakening your voice. If you decide to narrate your morning in English, you give your brain a signal that fluency is not a separate task. It is part of your identity from the very first hour. Think of the small moments. You rise from bed, stretch, and mutter, I need more sleep. You head to the bathroom and whisper, I have to get ready. You stand in front of the mirror, brushing your teeth, and say, time to wake up. These phrases might seem insignificant, but repetition carves them into your memory until they flow without thought. Over time, the phrases stop being translations. They become instinct. Breakfast, too, is a classroom. You prepare coffee and tell yourself, I can't start my day without this. You pour cereal and remark, I'm in a hurry. You toast bread and think, this will do. None of these sentences are advanced, yet they are the sentences of real life. And fluency is built not from complexity but from consistency. The more often you speak these phrases in English, the more natural they become. There is also the mental preparation of mornings. Some days you feel energized and you affirm, "I'm ready for anything." Other days you drag yourself muttering, "I'm not in the mood." Both states are lessons. By naming them in English, you connect your emotions to words. This is how fluency grows, not by memorizing isolated lists, but by living emotions in another language. The morning is also a place of planning. You glance at your schedule and say, "I've got a busy day ahead." You tie your shoes and remind yourself, "I can't be late." You step outside and breathe, "Let's do this." Each phrase is a seed, and each morning gives you the soil to plant them again. Ask yourself, are your mornings wasted in silence? Or are they already teaching you the language you dream of mastering? Because every morning ritual you repeat is a habit, and habits, when linked to English, create fluency that no textbook can match. The engine of expression does not roar only in classrooms. It hums quietly in the coffee you sip, the clothes you put on, the words you choose before the world hears your voice. Most people see the time spent commuting as wasted, waiting for the bus, sitting on a train, walking down the same street again and again. But if you want fluency, transit is not dead time. It is living time. Every step, every delay, every glimpse through the window is a lesson waiting to be spoken. On a bus, you might think, "It's crowded today." When the train slows, you sigh, "We're running late." Passing a landmark, you remark, "That's new." These are not academic sentences. They are lived sentences. And lived sentences become fluency faster than memorized grammar ever will. Movement also connects you to others. You overhear someone laughing and think, "They're having fun." You see someone rushing and say, "He's in a hurry." You pass a person sleeping and whisper, "She looks exhausted." Transit turns strangers into teachers because every observation becomes practice. Waiting too has its power. Standing in line, you check your watch and murmur, "I hope I'm not late." At a stoplight, you mutter, "Come on, hurry up." Each phrase is frustration turned into fluency. The longer you wait, the more opportunities you have to practice. Delay is no longer a curse. It is a classroom disguised as patience. Ask yourself, how many hours have you wasted scrolling in silence when those hours could have been full of English? The truth is, you don't need more time. You need to transform the time you already have. Commutes will always exist, but whether they are wasted or transformative depends on the words you choose to live inside them. Transit is movement, and fluency is movement. The two belong together. Students often think of the classroom as a cage, a place where language is forced. But in truth, the classroom is a stage. Every moment, from raising your hand to whispering with a friend, is an opportunity to practice fluency naturally. The border is not in the classroom, it is in the way you perceive it. Think of the questions you ask. Instead of saying, "I don't understand," you can say, "I'm not following you." When you agree, you can affirm, "That's a good call." When you doubt, you can respond, "I wouldn't count on it." These phrases are not in grammar books. They live in real exchanges. Even silence teaches. You hesitate, searching for words. That moment of tension is practice. You raise your hand nervously and say, "Could you repeat that?" That vulnerability is practice. Fluency does not require perfection. It requires participation. And the classroom is the safest stage you will ever have. The border disappears when you stop treating English as a subject and start treating it as a role. Every time you speak, you are not reciting, you are performing. And with each performance, you are not only learning the script, you are becoming the character, a fluent speaker. When the bell rings and the class ends, learning does not stop, it accelerates. Because the language of breaks, the jokes, the gossip, the quick greetings, is the language of life. Fluency lives in those moments. Think of the first words exchanged. "What's up?" "Long time no see." "Catch you later." They are short. They are simple. But they are powerful because they create belonging. Fluency is not only about vocabulary, it is about connection. Breaks also teach the art of interruption. A friend tells a long story and you laugh, cut to the chase. Someone exaggerates and you grin, you're full of it. These are not lines from a textbook. They are sparks of fluency, born in the heat of conversation. Ask yourself, do you hide in silence during breaks, or do you step into the rhythm of real English? Because every laugh, every tease, every casual word is building your fluency faster than any exercise sheet ever could. Eating is not just survival, it is culture. And in English, meals are classrooms disguised as conversations. The cafeteria, the cafe, the dinner table. These are places where fluency is cooked and shared. You order food and say, "I'll take the salad." You complain, "It's not worth the hassle." You joke, "Don't quote me on that, but yesterday's pasta looked recycled." In these moments, language is not study. It is laughter, sarcasm, bonding. Meals also teach generosity. A friend offers fries and you reply, "I'll take your word for it." Another suggests ending the session and you nod, "Let's call it a day." These are phrases wrapped in trust. The truth is, every shared meal is a shared lesson. When you eat in English, you are not only filling your stomach, you are feeding your fluency. Studying feels private, but the emotions it creates, frustration, determination, exhaustion, are universal. And in English, they become fluency. You pull an all-nighter and admit, "I'm dead tired." You face a hard problem and confess, "I can't wrap my head around this." You forget something and sigh, "It slipped my mind." These are not just phrases. They are survival. Every study session is a mirror. It shows not only what you know, but how you speak about what you know. By narrating your effort in English, you transform silence into practice. The struggle becomes not only academic but linguistic. And each time you return to the desk, you are not only preparing for exams, you are rehearsing for fluency. The day ends, the noise fades, and in the quiet of the night, English has a different role. It becomes a mirror. You look back and whisper, "I did my best." You regret, "I could have done more." You plan, "Tomorrow I'll try again." These are not vocabulary drills, they are confessions. And in English, they become a second identity. Night routines, brushing teeth, setting alarms, preparing clothes, are small rituals, but when narrated in English, they become affirmations. They remind you that fluency is not about performance for others. It is about honesty with yourself. The night is when English becomes intimate, personal, unpolished. And that intimacy is what makes fluency real. At first glance, routines seem dull. The same wake-ups, the same meals, the same study sessions. But in truth, repetition is the foundation of transformation. Each repeated action, when spoken in English, is a rehearsal. And rehearsals lead to mastery. Your routine is not a prison. It is the proof that you already have the structure needed for fluency. All you must do is name it in English. Over time, those names become habits. Those habits become instincts. And those instincts become fluency. Fluency is not a miracle. It is a choice, repeated until it becomes identity. Your daily routines are not holding you back. They are pushing you forward. And the day you realize that, you will stop waiting for fluency to arrive. You will see that you have been living it all along. Most people think of routines as fixed blocks: morning, classes, meals, study, night. But the truth is, fluency often grows strongest not inside the big moments, but in the transitions between them. The walk from the cafeteria to the classroom. The pause between one subject and the next. The 10 seconds you wait before a friend replies. These in-between spaces are often ignored, yet they hold the purest opportunities for growth. Think of what happens in those moments. You leave a classroom and head toward your locker. You mutter, "That class was tough." You glance at your phone and think, "I'll text them later." You bump into a friend and laugh, "What are you up to?" These are not long conversations, they are fragments. Yet each fragment is authentic, alive, and deeply connected to real fluency. Transitions also teach adaptability. You are switching environments, quiet to noisy, focus to relaxation, seriousness to play. And with each shift, your language adapts. In the hallway, you use short greetings. In the cafeteria, you expand into jokes. At night, you return to reflection. This constant movement trains you not only to know words, but to choose them based on the moment. That flexibility is the essence of fluency. Another power of transitions is their unpredictability. You cannot rehearse them. Someone asks a quick question and you must reply instantly. Someone tells a joke and you must react. Someone shares news and you must respond. These are unscripted tests, but they are also opportunities. The more you embrace them, the more fluent you become. Not because you memorized phrases, but because you learn to dance with the unexpected. Ask yourself, how many transitions do you live every day? How many times do you move from one setting to another, one mood to another, one thought to another? Each time is a chance to add English, to narrate, to react, to participate. But too often, you let them vanish in silence. You think practice only happens in the main scenes, yet fluency grows fastest in the small cuts, the invisible edits, the transitions. When you begin to see transitions as lessons, your whole day changes. The wait in line becomes vocabulary. The pause between classes becomes practice. The sigh before opening a book becomes narration. Fluency no longer feels like something you must chase. It becomes the natural byproduct of simply noticing what was already there. The hidden power of transitions is this. They prove that fluency is not locked in specific hours or grand lessons. It is flowing everywhere, especially in the seconds you thought were empty. Once you claim those seconds, you stop being only a student of English. You become a speaker of it, everywhere, always, in motion. There comes a moment in every learner's journey when speaking English is no longer the biggest challenge. The true test becomes how often you allow yourself to think in English, because fluency is not just what leaves your mouth, it is what shapes in your mind before words ever escape. And the bridge between practice and mastery is built in the silence of your thoughts. Imagine the dozens of inner dialogues you have throughout the day. You walk to class and think, I hope I'm not late. You glance at a grade and sigh, I could have done better. You bump into a friend and wonder, should I say something funny? These are conversations you already have, but always in your native language. What changes when you choose to have them in English? Everything. Suddenly, practice is not limited to moments when others are watching. It becomes constant, private, invisible. Thinking in English is more than translation. Translation is heavy, slow, full of second-guessing. True fluency emerges when you bypass translation altogether, when your thoughts flow directly into English without detouring through your first language. At first, this feels unnatural. You may resist telling yourself, this is too hard. But little by little, your brain adapts. The same way a musician hears music even when not playing, a fluent speaker hears English inside their own mind long before it is spoken aloud. The power of inner voice is that it follows you everywhere. In the cafeteria, you whisper in your head, what should I order? On the bus, you look out the window and think, the traffic is crazy. During a study session, you remind yourself, I'll get through this. Each of these inner sentences is practice without pressure. No one corrects you. No one judges you. You are free to experiment, to imagine, to explore. But the voice within also reveals identity. When you think in English, you do not just practice words. You practice being a different version of yourself. The version who belongs in global conversations, who can sit at any table in any country and understand. You discover that fluency is not only a skill, it is an identity you rehearse in your mind until it becomes real. Ask yourself how many hours of your day are spent in thought, and how many of those hours could be lived in English. If you chose to redirect even a fraction of them, your fluency would double, not because you studied more, but because you lived more of your life in the language. The voice within is the final frontier of routine. You already use English in morning rituals, in classrooms, in meals, in commutes, in reflections. But when you use it in thought, you cross the threshold into true fluency. Because fluency is not measured only by how you speak when the world listens. It is measured by how naturally English becomes the language of your own private world. And once that happens, you are no longer practicing English. You are living it, out loud and in silence. Up until now, we have seen how routine is the foundation of fluency. The mornings, the commutes, the classrooms, the meals, the nights, even the silent thoughts, all of them form the hidden architecture of language growth. But there is one final layer, the moment when routine is no longer only practice, but a platform for freedom. Because true fluency does not mean repeating words correctly. It means breaking free from the limits of translation, hesitation, and fear. It means claiming the power to express yourself in English exactly as you are. Think of the way repetition shapes you. Every day you wake up and perform the same tasks. At first, they feel ordinary, but when you add English, the repetition becomes transformation. You are no longer brushing your teeth. You are rehearsing the phrase, I need to get ready. You are no longer eating lunch. You are laughing. That was a good call. These repeated actions carve pathways in your brain until the words flow effortlessly. And once they flow, you are no longer chained to the script. You are free to improvise. That freedom is fluency. It is the moment when English stops being effort and starts being instinct. When you no longer pause to ask, how do I say this? But instead speak without realizing the words are in another language. It is the same freedom you feel when riding a bike after weeks of practice. You stop thinking about balance because balance has become part of you. Fluency, too, is balance carried in your voice. But fluency as freedom is also about courage. The courage to make mistakes, to take risks, to push conversations further. Routine gave you the tools. Now freedom demands you use them in new ways. To speak with a stranger. To write without checking every word. To share your opinion in class. To say yes to opportunities you once feared. Because fluency is not silent mastery, it is active freedom, tested in the real world. Ask yourself, what would your life look like if you stopped holding back? How many doors would open if English was not a barrier but a bridge? How many friendships, jobs, and adventures would appear if you chose to live in the freedom your routines have built for you? The truth is, you are closer than you think. You do not need to wait for permission. You already have the foundation. You already have the routine. And now you can break it. Not by abandoning it, but by transforming it into expression without limits. Fluency as freedom is the destination. But it is also the journey itself. Every step of your daily routine has been leading here. Every phrase you whispered, every sentence you practiced, every thought you translated, all of them were preparing you for this moment. The moment when English is not just a subject, not just a practice, but your own language of freedom. And when that happens, you realize fluency was never only about English. It was about becoming fully yourself with no walls, no borders, no hesitation, just voice, just freedom. Routines are powerful because they give structure. They provide repetition, discipline, and practice without demanding extra time. But there is a danger in routines too. They can make you believe that English belongs only to the circle of your everyday actions. The final step toward fluency is realizing that English is not just something you insert into your day. It is something you carry with you everywhere, even beyond the limits of your routine. Think of the places where your routine does not always reach. The spontaneous moments, the unexpected invitations, the unplanned adventures. A friend calls late at night and asks you to join them. A teacher surprises you with a sudden question. A stranger on a bus asks for directions. These are not part of the schedule. They are the cracks where life spills out unpredictably. And yet, it is in these cracks that fluency shines the brightest. Because fluency is not tested by what you rehearse. It is revealed in what you cannot rehearse. When you go beyond the routine, English stops being an exercise and becomes your companion. You watch a film not as homework but for pleasure, and suddenly you realize you understand without subtitles. You scroll through social media and notice you are thinking in English before translating. You dream at night and catch fragments of dialogue in another language. These moments prove that fluency is not tied to effort anymore. It has become natural, instinctive, alive. Living English everywhere also means embracing identity. It is not only about describing your morning or narrating your commute. It is about telling your story, your ambitions, your fears, your jokes, all in English. When you can argue passionately, comfort a friend, or even make someone laugh in a language that is not your own, you are no longer a student of English. You are a speaker of English. Ask yourself, where do you still keep English locked inside the walls of study? Do you reserve it only for lessons, exams, or textbooks? Or do you allow it to travel with you, to appear in music, movies, conversations, and reflections? Because once you break that invisible wall, the language follows you everywhere. It becomes the soundtrack of your life, not just a subject in your schedule. Beyond the routine is where transformation completes itself. Routine gave you the foundation. Transitions gave you practice. Reflection gave you identity. But going beyond, taking English into every unexpected space of your life, gives you mastery. You will no longer be waiting for the perfect conditions to practice. You will be living in a constant state of practice, invisible yet powerful, until fluency is not something you chase but something you embody. And that is the real destination. Not to study English, not to practice English, but to live English. In every corner of your life, in every silence, in every surprise. Beyond the routine lies freedom, confidence, and a new identity. And once you step into that space, you will never see English as a foreign language again. You will see it as part of who you are, everywhere you go. Fluency has always been presented as a finish line. A distant point in the horizon, something you will reach after years of study, countless lessons, and endless effort. But the truth is far more powerful. Fluency is not only a goal, it is a transformation of self. The English you practice today is not just preparing you to speak tomorrow, it is shaping the person you are becoming. Every phrase you whisper, every thought you translate, every routine you narrate is already building your future self. Think of this. 10 years from now, who will you be in English? Will you still hesitate, afraid of mistakes, waiting for the right word to appear? Or will you speak confidently, naturally, without even realizing that you are doing it? The difference between those two futures is not talent, luck, or secret shortcuts. The difference is what you choose to do with the routines you live today. The future self is nothing more than the sum of repeated choices. And when those choices include English, the person you become is someone who no longer struggles with fluency, because fluency has become part of their identity. Every time you describe your morning in English, you are training the voice of the person who will one day negotiate a contract, present an idea, or inspire a crowd. Every time you practice casual conversations in the hallway, you are shaping the person who will one day build friendships, partnerships, and opportunities across the world. Every time you reflect at night in English, you are teaching your future self not just how to speak, but how to think in another language. And once you can think in English, the world no longer divides between us and them. It becomes one continuous voice that you belong to. But fluency and the future self go even deeper. It is not only about opportunities or achievements, it is about identity. Language is not just communication. It is thought, it is culture, it is perspective. When you live your routines in English, you are not only learning words, you are learning to see the world through another lens. And that lens shapes your future self into someone richer, more adaptable, more connected to humanity as a whole. You stop being only a student from one country. You become a citizen of many worlds. Now pause and imagine. Close your eyes and see yourself 5 years ahead. You are traveling, maybe studying abroad, maybe working in a global company, maybe simply sharing a coffee with someone who doesn't speak your native language. And yet, you do not feel fear. You do not hesitate. Words flow easily. You laugh at jokes, you share your thoughts, you argue, you dream, all in English. That version of you is not a fantasy. It is a possibility waiting for you. And the bridge to that version is the routines you live today. Ask yourself, what if you wasted another 5 years waiting for fluency to arrive magically? What if you kept routines locked in silence, refusing to narrate them in English? What if you left your future self unprepared for the opportunities that are already on the way? The cost of inaction is too high. Because fluency is not only about sounding good, it is about opening doors that silence will always keep shut. But there is hope in this truth as well. Because the opposite is also real. If you claim your routines today, if you fill them with English, if you turn each morning, each commute, each study session, each reflection into practice, then 5 years from now, you will not only speak fluently, you will live fluently. And that future self will look back and thank you for the choices you made now. Fluency is not a miracle, it is a mirror. A mirror showing the person you can become if you choose to live fully in the language you dream of mastering. The future self is already calling. You can hear their voice. Confident, natural, free. And if you listen closely, you realize it is not a stranger's voice. It is your own, stronger, braver, more fluent than ever before. So as you finish this journey through routines, remember this: fluency is not far away. It is already here, hidden in the repetition of daily life, waiting to be claimed. Each action, each phrase, each thought brings you closer. Your future self is not asking for perfection. They are asking for consistency. They are asking you to live today in English so that tomorrow you can live in freedom. The story ends here, but your fluency does not. Because the end of this video is the beginning of your transformation. Step into your routines with courage. Speak them, think them, live them in English. And soon, when you meet your future self, you will see that they are not different from you. They are simply you, after choosing, day after day, to live in the language of freedom.